In this picture on the right, you can see a lion closing in on a zebra, whose initial reaction is to run away as fast as possible in fear of dying. This introduces the concept of fear, predator-induced fear, which is talked about in the College Board stimulus about predator-induced fear, which says ecologists in turn have begun appreciating how predator-induced fear can have long-lasting consequences on the animal's reactions to predators. Just like how animals can suffer from the fear of dying, which arises from PTSD, high school students can suffer from stress because of the fear of failure and not living up to expectations. Hello, my name is Jose Chirino, and my research question is, in what ways does high school affect how teenagers manage stress in the United States? My answer to this question is, high school has a negative effect on how students manage stress in the United States, and the three main factors that we're going to be looking at are academic pressure, extracurriculars, and social conformity. Social conformity can come in three different ways. It can come within school pressure, outside of school pressure, and competitive pressure. Within school pressure is the type of pressure which arises from teachers and the school itself, as they push students in order to represent them in a positive way, which is talked about in the Journal of Best Practices in Health by Tierney Richwood. As schools, because students not only have to focus on their own goals and achieve and be able to live up to their own standards, they also have to listen to the teachers and the messages which the administrators transfer to them as the district goals in order to be able to live up to in order to be able to not only keep a high reputation up for the school, but also for the teachers themselves. And then outside of school pressure can come from things like external factors like family, and within family can arise from things like a weak family structure and parents with little to no education and harsh economic and social status, which is talked about in an article about family and academic stress and the effect on teenagers by Cherry on them. Students who are born more privileged and in better, well-off families tend to have less effort and don't put in the same amount of work as students who, let's say, come from a harsher background and they have to work and claw their way up society. They tend to put in harsher work because they believe that's the only way that they're able to help their family and they're able to have an influence on their family status and hopefully be able to help. And then there's competitive pressure, which is the pressure which encourages students to do their best and to be able to stand out over others. As shown in this graph right here, from the years 2013 to 2023, competition for Ivy League schools increased substantially. As the number of applicants grew over those 10 years, the percentage of those accepted did decrease, which shows the hard work and ethic one has to put in the modern day in order to be able to be taken into consideration by these colleges. It's not as simple as it was before. And those students who want to go above and beyond and exceed expectations do have to put school first, and that can cause bad effects on their mental health. Then moving on to extracurriculars, the next big factor, which is extracurriculars, can have detrimental effects physically and psychologically on students. The physical aspect is highlighted in the College Board stimulus article about Simone Biles, which states how Simone Biles had to overcome broken bones, kidney stones, and daunting routines in order to be able to reach the level where she's at right now. When comparing this to high school students, this shows how they not only have to fight through the daunting routines and possible injuries if they do play a sport or involve themselves in an extracurricular which requires physical activity. They also have to deal with living up to expectations and being able to not only do good, but sometimes in some cases excel in those classes, and this can lead to stress because they might not be able to find enough time within a day to be able to excel at all those different things that they want to be good at. And then the psychological effects from extracurriculars can come from things like being cut from a sports team, which causes you to lose confidence in yourself. Going back to the College Board article about Simone Biles, she stated in her interview these 4 different things. I was fighting all those demons. I just don't trust myself. as much as I used to. I never felt like this before. No, the mental is not there. This shows how Simone Biles not only lost trust in herself as an athlete, but also lost herself as a person, as she was struggling she was going through a lot of different mental issues. Especially at a young age, which high school students are, it is very hard for them to go through these issues if they involve themselves in extracurriculars, because they're still developing and they might not be able to deal with all the different things that extracurriculars ask of them. And if you start losing confidence in yourself in one thing, that can lead to them to start losing confidence in themselves about many different other factors about their high school. And then the last factor, which is social conformity, comes in two different ways: peer pressure and social media. Peer pressure is something which most have seen or experienced. Sharon Harnett stated in a peer-reviewed article how people on the football team tend to be looked at a better light than people who, let's say, involve themselves in things like ballet. This highlights how students may be forced to undergo change in the stuff that they like and they enjoy, and in order to be able to fit into society better, which at first might seem good because they are more accepted, but then this creates sort of a double-edged personality in which they don't know what they want to pursue or what they like in the future. And then social media. Social media and the positive and negative feedback which is posted about their content can affect the students' self-esteem, which is talked about by Mateo Fabris in an article about how negative reactions on social media can lead to the loss of how negative reactions on social media influence teenagers. This is further emphasized by this graph, where it shows the mixed feelings about social media which teenagers have in the United States. 31% find social media mostly positive, 45% say neither, and 24% say mostly negative. While the 24% might seem like a small amount compared to those two, it does show how teenagers can be unfairly looked at during social media and might be degraded by others, which makes them feel less about themselves and makes them feel less comfortable in who they are as a person and in their own skin, and that just can lead to a multitude of different issues, especially in a time where they're learning and developing as a person. They might not be able to take the criticism from others too well. Overall, society must ensure that we can keep this next generation as stress-free as possible and be stress-free as possible in order to be able to secure the future of our nation. Due to this, the solution I propose to this problem is introducing counseling programs for students so they can learn from people who are passing in high school or are currently in high school. They can learn things such as different healthy coping strategies, and they can also improve things such as time management in order to be able to have a more joyful time in high school. My two limitations are that not all resources needed to be able to help to address every single issue student has might be available, especially if the issue is something that's especially if the issue is an external factor that is too big to handle. Let's say a student has an issue in social media. Social media was originally created as a space where anybody can share their own opinion, and there might not be much to do in order to be able to help them solve that problem. And then my second limitation is if students feel the need to do a lot of things in order to be able to be successful, who tells them they can't do it? As long as they feel comfortable within themselves and nobody's pressuring them or stressing them out, and they feel like they can accomplish all those things, then to each their own, they can do their own thing. And then that's my word study.
All right, back up a little bit. Two questions for you, Jose. First up, what evidence did you gather that you didn't use, and then why didn't you use it?
The evidence I gathered that I didn't use, there was one I didn't use in my extracurriculars. I gathered information about the economic and how it affects, because some extracurriculars you have to pay in order to be able to participate in them, and not every single family can obviously go into that.
Okay.
But I felt like I had already repeated something similar about family and the economic status, so I felt like that was very repetitive.
All right. And what advice would you have for other people that want to look at this in the future?
What advice? I would say find more numerical information about like colleges and stuff like that and the competitiveness. How I stated here before, the Ivy League schools, I would say maybe either find a graph. Yeah, probably like find a graph that displays a greater variety of colleges, not just Ivy League schools, because not everybody wants to go to college because of how good they are. Sometimes they feel better staying somewhere where they feel closer to their family, or they have to take other things into consideration before they choose college.